a massive and slow-moving convective storm system, unleashed historic rainfall, destructive wind gusts, and severe flash flooding across Corpus Christi and the wider coastal Bend region, triggering a full-scale emergency response, disrupting major transportation networks and leaving thousands of residents without power. An atmospheric convergence of dense Gulf moisture and a stalled frontal boundary has slammed South Texas, transforming the region into an active disaster zone. Torrential downpours, severe cloud-to-ground lightning strikes, and damaging straight-line winds have pounded the city of Corpus Christi and surrounding municipal jurisdictions, including Nueces, San Patricio, Kleberg, and B counties. The National Weather Service, NWS, has issued multiple consecutive flash flood warnings, characterizing the situation as life-threatening. Municipal leaders, law enforcement agencies, and emergency management personnel are pleading with the public to halt all non-essential travel, obey road barricades, and seek high ground immediately. The severe weather event did not materialize in isolation. Rather, it was the product of a highly volatile setup that meteorologists had been tracking across the western Gulf of Mexico and the Texas hillside for several days. The disaster was driven by a deeply anchored low-pressure system, interacting with an unusually rich plume of tropical moisture, streaming northward from the Caribbean and southern Gulf. This moisture-laden air mass collided with a weak, slow-moving cold front that became entirely stationary just north of the coastal bend. The stationary front acted as a lifting mechanism, forcing the warm, humid maritime air upward into a highly unstable upper atmosphere. The resulting convective environment allowed individual thunderstorm cells to continually form, mature, and track over the exact same geographical locations. A dangerous meteorological phenomenon known as training. As these heavy storm bands trained across Nueces County, Doppler radar estimates and ground-level rain gauges recorded astonishing precipitation rates. In certain sectors of urban Corpus Christi, rainfall rates peaked between 2.5 to 3.5 inches per hour. To put this in perspective, an ordinary municipal storm drainage system is engineered to handle roughly 1 to 1.5 inches of rain over an entire hour. When that threshold is doubled or tripled within a 60-minute window, gravity-fed drainage ditches, concrete culverts, and subterranean pipes immediately lose efficiency, causing rainwater to back up into the streets. As the core of the storm system stalled directly over Corpus Christi, the impacts shifted from a general weather nuisance to a full-scale public safety crisis. High winds and blind walls of water combined to batter both private property and public infrastructure. The leading edge of the storm system produced powerful downbursts and straight-line winds exceeding 65 miles per hour. These destructive winds functioned much like a weak tropical storm, ripping loose shingles from residential roofs, shattering commercial storefront windows, and uprooting mature live oak trees. The falling trees and flying debris took a heavy toll on the local electrical grid. High-voltage distribution lines were snapped along primary corridors. Dozens of transformers exploded, lighting up the dark storm skies with bright green flashes. Utility companies reported widespread power outages, leaving thousands of homes and local businesses completely in the dark during the height of the torrential downpour. With the drainage networks overwhelmed, the topography of Corpus Christi dictated where the water would pool. Low-lying areas, coastal plains, and engineered underpasses transformed into deep lakes within minutes. Major roadways experienced severe inundation, including parts of Interstate 37, U.S. Highway 77, and State Highway 358, South Padre Island Drive. Feeder roads and service intersections became entirely impassable. Sedans and low-clearance passenger vehicles, attempting to navigate the rising waters, quickly stalled out as water entered their exhaust systems and flooded their engines, forcing drivers to abandon their cars. Local first responders, municipal crews, and state agencies immediately shifted to an emergency footing to safeguard human life and protect critical infrastructure from rising waters. The Corpus Christi Fire Department, CCFD, working in close tandem with the Nueces County Sheriff's Office and nearby police departments like Beeville, deployed specialized high-water rescue vehicles and zodiac boats. First responders moved systematically through heavily flooded intersections to extract stranded motorists from the roofs of their submerged vehicles. In low-lying residential neighborhoods, emergency crews went door-to-door in high-clearance trucks, evaluating structural flooding and assisting elderly or vulnerable residents who were trapped as water began encroaching on their ground floors. To combat the rising water, the Corpus Christi Office of Emergency Management rapidly set up emergency sandbag distribution sites for residents. Long lines of vehicles formed as citizens sought to reinforce their garage doors, entryways, and low-lying properties. Municipal public works crews were also deployed into the driving rain to clear debris, logs, and trash that had drifted into major drainage grates, trying to restore even a fraction of the city's drainage capacity. Law enforcement officers worked aggressively to erect physical barricades at known flood choke points, warning drivers that driving past a barricade carries stiff legal penalties and puts rescuer lives at risk. The recent deluge highlights a glaring environmental irony that has come to define South Texas weather patterns. A sudden, highly destructive flash flood occurring in a region plagued by severe systemic multi-year drought conditions. For over a decade, Corpus Christi's primary water supply reservoirs, specifically the Choke Canyon Reservoir and Lake Corpus Christi, have experienced historically low water inflows. Prolonged dry spells and high evaporation rates have shrunk Choke Canyon to a fraction of its capacity, hovering around critical single-digit percentages, roughly 8%. While recent spring storms did provide some relief to nearby Lake Texana, driving its storage levels up significantly, the broader water system remains deeply stressed. Hydrologists point out that violent urban flash flood events are highly inefficient at replenishing deep water reservoirs. Because the rain falls with such extreme intensity over a concentrated area, the ground simply cannot absorb it. Instead of soaking into deep aquifers or gently draining into upstream river basins that feed the city's reservoirs, the water becomes immediate urban runoff. Millions of gallons of water wash over oil-stained asphalt, collect street debris, and pour directly out into the coastal bays and the Gulf of Mexico, leaving the region's long-term water shortage largely unresolved despite the overflowing streets. As weather patterns become increasingly erratic, long-term spatial data models indicate that flooding is shifting from an occasional hurricane byproduct into a regular operational hazard for Corpus Christi. Meanwhile, the San Antonio metropolitan area and the broader south-central Texas region are locked in a severe weather emergency as consecutive rounds of violent thunderstorms, torrential downpours, and tornadic activity have triggered widespread flash flooding. Local authorities, emergency management personnel, and first responders have been working non-stop across Bexar County to mitigate structural damages, conduct high-water rescues, and manage a rapidly deteriorating infrastructure network disrupted by atmospheric instability. The National Weather Service, NWS, Austin/San Antonio office, issued multiple flash flood warnings, alongside a series of critical tornado warnings that covered major suburban hubs northeast of the city center, including Schertz, Universal City, and Converse. This highly active weather system has dumped massive quantities of rainwater onto an already saturated terrain, resulting in extreme runoff that has turned metropolitan thoroughfares into rushing rivers, trapped numerous motorists, and left thousands of households without electrical power. The meteorological trigger behind this severe weather event stems from a persistent system of low atmospheric pressure that has slowly progressed eastward. As this low-pressure cell interacted with exceptionally high levels of atmospheric moisture funneling from the Gulf of Mexico, it created a volatile environment ripe for multi-cell convective storm development. The resulting squall line pushed into the San Antonio metro area with immense force, generating localized rainfall rates that reached up to 2 inches per hour during peak storm intervals. According to localized rainfall tracking networks, cumulative precipitation totals across parts of the region south of San Antonio have rapidly surpassed 5 inches within a 24-hour window. Primary corridors stretching between San Antonio and New Braunfels received upwards of 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, with even higher concentrations traveling up Highway 281 into the heart of the Texas Hill Country. This influx of water follows an extraordinarily wet month for San Antonio. Prior to this latest storm sequence, the city had already recorded over 4 inches of rainfall at official tracking stations, while Stinson Municipal Airport on the city's south side documented an astonishing 6.36 inches of rain earlier in the month. Because the regional soil profiles were completely saturated from preceding weekly rain events, the landscape possessed virtually zero absorptive capacity, causing almost 100% of the overnight deluge to convert directly into dangerous urban runoff. The immediate consequence of the intense rainfall rates was a near instantaneous flooding of low-lying urban sectors, drainage channels, and major traffic arteries. On Wednesday morning, commuters across the Alamo City woke up to a heavily compromised highway and street network. Local news crews and emergency vehicles captured stark footage of vehicles completely stalled and submerged near downtown San Antonio. On 9th Street, multiple passenger cars were swallowed by rising waters, forcing drivers to abandon their properties and seek higher ground. Similar hazardous conditions manifested along the lower levels of Interstate 35, a historically vulnerable transit point that frequently suffers from severe water pooling during intense rain events. South of the city, the situation became critical, with Atascosa County reporting numerous roads underwater and emergency crews performing rescues, highlighting the severe danger of driving through flooded areas. This prompted a surge in multi-agency emergency operations, with teams in San Antonio focusing on vulnerable, low-water crossings. This latest crisis follows an earlier fatal incident in May, where a man was swept away by high water. Flash flooding became the primary weather concern across central Texas on Tuesday night, as heavy rain prompted warnings, road closures, and multiple water rescues.
It's flooded.
CBS Austin Chief Meteorologist Chikage Windler said at 9:44 p.m. that flash flooding had become the dominant concern for the remainder of the night. Flash flood warnings were in effect for Llano, Burnet, Williamson, and Blanco counties until 12 a.m. Wednesday. The Weather Prediction Center also highlighted much of the area for an ongoing flash flood threat lasting several more hours. In Burnet County, emergency crews reported several water rescue calls as flooding worsened across the area. Burnet County ESD 9 Spicewood Fire Rescue urged residents to stay off the roads unless necessary, warning water was rapidly rising at low water crossings. If you don't need to be out, then stay home, the department posted on social media. Turn around, don't drown. Officials said County Road 401 South was closed in multiple locations between Highway 71 and Summit Springs because of flooding. Burnet County Precinct 2. Commissioner Damon Byerly also warned drivers not to attempt crossing flooded roads. The amount of rain we are seeing across the region is causing low water crossings to get high really fast, Byerly said in a social media post. Meanwhile, Windler noted that San Antonio was under a tornado warning until 10:30 p.m. for a storm moving northeast at about 30 miles per hour. Residents in RV parks in Georgetown were asked to evacuate early Wednesday morning after overnight flooding on the San Gabriel River. Williamson County officials reported that flooding was occurring near the Shady River and Goodwater RV parks, situated along the San Gabriel River in Georgetown. Residents were asked to immediately evacuate to higher ground. Drivers were asked not to drive through flooded roadways. The county listed the Georgetown Church of the Nazarene as a temporary evacuation site, located at 4051 East University Avenue. Flash flooding in that area ended at around 9:40 a.m., according to Williamson County. Officials say it is now safe to enter the area. The Georgetown Fire Department rescued a person stranded in their vehicle on a flooded roadway overnight. Last night, Georgetown fire crews, along with Texas Task Force 1, responded to a vehicle stranded on a section of County Road 152. The fire department says the vehicle's occupant was safely extracted from his vehicle. No injuries were reported between the occupant and fire crews. Meanwhile, the Comal River was closed to recreational use Wednesday after overnight storms sent water levels surging, city officials said. The closure was ordered by the new Braunfels chief of police, following a sharp rise in river flow to approximately 1,300 cubic feet per second, along with poor water clarity and debris along the riverbanks and at the Tube Chute Dam. City officials said they will reevaluate conditions Thursday morning to determine when recreational access can resume. The Guadalupe River was not affected by the recent rainfall and remains open for recreation, the city said. City officials reminded residents and visitors not to drive through flooded roadways or around barricades. Turn around, don't drown, the city said in a statement.